Good afternoon. The Committee on General Government Operation and Appropriations now called to order. Today is Tuesday, June 20th. The time now is 2 o'clock. In compliance with the Open Government Law, the notices for this public hearing were posted on the Guam Public Notice Portal, KGTF, PBS, Channel 12, and disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Monday, June 12th, with a change 1 on the same date, and again on Thursday, June 15th. The agenda we'll be addressing today is the budget for the Department of Correction. This is in reference to Bill 26-37 COR, the Committee on Rules, by request of I Magaʹhågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act making appropriations for the operation of the executive branch of the Government of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous administrative provisions relative to the Department of Correction. At this time, I ask the members of the Department of Corrections panel to please rise while the Sergeant at Arms will swear you all in.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Mr. Chair, you're under oath. You may proceed. Thank you. Thank
you very much, Sergeant at Arms. The rules for this budget hearing, ladies and gentlemen, please provide my legislative staff with any document for photocopying and distribution. Panel members are asked to remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony may be desired by members of the committee. Questions and testimonies shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule will result in removal from the budget hearing. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from participating and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for your record. So for many of you that like to talk soft, change it real quick because we want to be able to hear you and because we have to transcribe this. I'm not referring to your director who's a soft talker, so I understand. I'd like to thank my colleagues who have joined me this afternoon. I've got the Oversight Chair for the Department of Correction, Senator Barnett, and we have Senator Duenas to my right. At this point, I'd ask the Director, Mr. Cabrillo, to please give his opening and present his budget for 2024, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Buenas and half a day. Chairman San Agustin and members of the Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Department of Corrections fiscal year 2024 budget requests. The Department of Corrections is seeking a FY 2024 appropriation level of $33,313,902 for its overall operations. The sum of $31,786,215 is requested from the General Fund, and $1,527,687 is requested from the Corrections Revolving Fund and Safe Streets Fund. Approximately $24,411,335 is for personnel, and $1,012,623 is for overtime, and $7,889,944 is for operational costs and utilities. Operational costs under the Corrections Revolving Funds are for service providers to provide medical services to inmates and detainees. The remaining contractual services, supplies, and equipment costs for DOC to provide for support to the department in meeting its core duties and responsibilities. I'm sifting through, I know you guys probably have a copy of the talking points that I have, so I'm gonna cut short a little bit. I'm not gonna read everything. I'm gonna go to the meat of it, so just bear with me.
I appreciate that.
I'm going to lose my voice if I read everything. So everything, anyway, all the information is here. So we'll start first with the budget for the director's office. A total of $3,305,832 is requested for the director's office for its FY 2024 operations from the general fund to fund salaries, benefits, and overtime for 2 unclassified positions, the director and deputy director, 9 classified positions, that's the ASO, the program coordinator 3, personnel officer, administrative assistant, payroll clerk, clerk 3, messenger clerk, property and supply officer, and a computer systems analyst 1. $147,958 is requested for operations, which covers fuel, drug testing, and miscellaneous. That's clothing allowance and uniforms for officers. Utilities costs of $1,996,611 is requested for the department's telephone, power, and water services. In order to meet the budget ceiling, there is no capital outlay for this fiscal year. Staffing needs for the administration or administrative section for DOC, we're requesting to fill the following positions: a property and supply management officer. This is currently being performed collateral duties by a corrections officer and 2 clerk 3s. Computer systems analyst 1, again, this is being performed by a corrections facility superintendent, assistant superintendent, and a corrections social worker supervisor, which are part of this panel right now. So we need to fill that position. If filled, they would remove the other civilian staff and security staff assigned to these duties and allow better administrative support for about 200 DOC employees. Moving into the operations, the Adult Corrections Facility and the Hagåtña Detention Facility, a total of $22,018,186 and $186 is requested for both the Adult Correction Facility and the Hagåtña Detention Facility for its FY 2024 operations from the general fund to fund salaries, benefits, and overtime for a total of 206 uniformed corrections officers, which includes the warden, majors, captains, lieutenants, sergeants, corporals, detention facility guards, and arms security guard. Approximately $935,451 is requested for overtime. This amount may not be sufficient for FY 24. Should there be a shortage of manpower due to military deployment, weekend drills, and personnel on leave, however, the department will do its due diligence to minimize the overtime. If you look through the following page here, you see a breakdown of where all the corrections officers, the uniform officers, are assigned to by percentage. That gives you an idea of where everyone is distributed as far as uniform officers. So the Adult Corrections Facility and Hagåtña Detention Facility have a total prison population of 623, and that's for the Adult Correction Facility up in Manila. And then for Hagåtña Detention Facilities, there's 145. The total prisoners on the island is 768, and there's 12 off island. The next page just runs down through all the different posts and what they're about. Going into casework and counseling services division. A total of $945,897 is requested for casework and counseling services division for its FY24 operations for the general funds. That's for 9 corrections social worker personnel, 1 social worker administrator, 1 corrections social worker supervisor, 3 corrections social worker 3s, 1 corrections social worker 2, and 1 corrections social worker 1, and 2 clerk 3s. The staffing needs for casework, they need 3 more casework and counseling personnel, 1 social worker 2, and 1 social worker 1, and 1 clerk 3. Parole Services Division, a total of $1,398,612 is requested for Parole Services Division for its FY 2024 operations from the general funds. And that's for 11 parole officers, to include the chief parole officer. That's 3 parole officer 3s, 3 parole officer 2s, 3 parole officer 1s, and 1 secretary typist 1. The staffing needs, you need 1 parole officer 2, 1 parole officer 1, and 1 secretary typist. Contractual services. The FY 2024 budget request is $5,160,188. $4,217,688 will come from the general funds, and $942,500 will be funded with special funds. So in FY 2023, the food services was appropriated $3,401,931, which is a difference of $1,758,257. An additional $2 million has just been appropriated with ARP funds to cover our projected shortfall for FY 23. A 3-year contract with the option to renew for 2 additional fiscal years was awarded through an IFB and took effect April 2020. The GMH Consolidated Cooperative Agreement. In FY 2024, the funding for GMHA Consolidated Agreement in the amount of $3 million will be covered by the general funds under the miscellaneous appropriations. In FY 2023, $2.4 million was appropriated, and an additional $1.2 million was appropriated with ARP funds to cover our projected shortfall for FY 23. DOC is requesting supplemental funding to address the dental needs for DOC inmates and detainees. Although the cooperative agreement stipulates that GMH provides dental services, GMH is unable to provide this service due to the unavailability of a dental clinic at the Manila Department of Public Health and Social Services, which was shut down. Dental services would include basic extractions with initial exam and x-ray prior to extractions and cleaning. The estimated cost per extraction will be a higher charge if surgery is needed. Overtime. The overtime level requested, as stated earlier, is $1,012,623. For FY 2024, this may not be sufficient for the entire fiscal year. DOC's goal is to reduce overtime expenditures, but it will be relying on the entire fiscal year. I mean, the current and future staffing, I'm sorry. Due to severe shortage of officers caused by resignations, retirements, and continued military deployment, DOC is on a 12-hour schedule with 5 days on and 2 days off. We anticipate an increase in overtime expenditures to previous levels. FY 2023, it was 1.822255, which was appropriated for that overtime. As of 6/17/2023, DOC has expended a total of $2,539,563. The total appropriated and expended was $2,812,342 to cover the overtime for the department's FY 2022. We have current and ongoing projects as indicated there. So the variance of 3.6 million is attributed to, of course, the 22% general pay plan that was implemented in April. An estimated 500,000 is what's needed for 12 months for a full year. 250,000 was the cost for 6 months. There are also vacancies that we're requesting to be funded. And of course, that estimate is 1.7 million. The organic growth, we anticipate the estimate to be 1.2, and this is based on the prison population with an average of 550 to 600 to now 750 to 800. Food services is $21.85 a day for one prisoner. And if you see the math there, that's what it equals to. The DOC accomplishments, it's provided to you in the slides there. And that would be the conclusion of this presentation. My staff and I are open to any questions from the committee regarding the department's FY24 budget requests as presented. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Director. I'd like to also recognize my colleagues that have joined us, Speaker Teresa Lai and Senator Joanne Brown, who also joined us this afternoon. Director, Joe, I'm looking at your budget and you have 35 million, correct? Okay, we're looking at 35,659, or actually 37,187, correct? And you have a shortfall of 2.9. Is that what you're saying? So say yes, because I'm looking. I know what I read and I heard from you. Okay, yes. You identified 1.7 and 1.2. That's yes. 2.9.
Yes, sir.
So you're short 2.9 is what you're asking for to fill additional positions, correct?
Yes, sir.
The only thing I was just kind of thrown off when you identified you have a typist, secretary typist, but then you want another one, same title, same type of position.
Which one, sir?
I think that's in the parole. I'm trying to go backwards a little bit, based on your presentation, and I'm just trying to do this quickly, okay, so I can get to my other staff. You know, when you identify position, I would have preferred that when you identify position, if you say if you got a secretary typist there, por favor, don't ask for another secretary typist. Say you're promoting one to two and then ask for the second one, because you're going to have two secretaries and they're both typists. And you only got one chief parole officer. Why do you need two? I know. Chief parole
I think it's just one, Senator.
No. You identified you needed one more. You also identified another position. And I'm just saying is that go over it real quick and we look at your staffing pattern, because I understand your shortfall. And you know that everywhere else in law enforcement there's shortfall. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to say no.
Yes, sir.
Because I understand what you're going through, but I got to work with what the numbers exist throughout the Governor of Guam and with my colleagues and your oversight chair on how we can help you stay afloat. I'm more concerned about protecting your employees more than the inmates, because you're responsible
yes,
by federal statute to protect them. But I'm concerned about the health and welfare and safety of the employees.
Yes, sir.
Being a former police officer, I remember going up to DOC and having to help man the prison. So I can understand what you all are going through, and I just don't want you guys to be in harm's way. You're already in harm's way just being there, but any closer is never a good thing. And then I'd like to also, you identified in part of your budget, it's at the AG's office for the RFP for the new prison.
Yes, that's correct, Senator.
How many years already? Just so I don't have to cite the law that I'm the one that introduced it, that authorized the $5 million so you can
I'll
start
have
it.
Major Uggan elaborate on that because I put him on that one, on that task.
The Department of Public Works is the one taking the lead on the putting together an RFP for the architectural services to do a design. That is with the AG's office. I think it's been there about maybe 3 months that it's been with the AG's under legal review.
Now, if you remember, Mr. Uggan, when we were discussing the new prison, we first was pushing for what, a $70 million project, and it became 160, if I'm correct? And then we also recommended that you figure out a way how to scale it down, because until you reach a point where you can get additional funding, then you keep growing, keep fixing and growing. But at least start with something than to be still in the same box today. What year was that when we got that bill approved? You remember? I know it wasn't last year.
I think it was 2022 or 2021.
2021.
2021?
2021? That must have 2024, no, and it hasn't, and it's at the AG only for 3 months? You get where I'm coming from, Mr. Uggan, Major?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
again,
so figure it out, get with your director, get it moving. Because the crime fighter cannot keep putting people into your prison if you don't have enough room. He needs to fix the RFP, get with Public Works, do what you need to do. Because I know the oversight chair, Senator Brennan, has brought this up to me. We need to figure out a way to help DOC.
Yes, sir.
We can't help you if somebody's causing a delay. Let them know, let me know, and we'll reach out. We'll do the Midas touch, reach out and touch somebody and say, hey, you got to do something. DOC needs money. And maybe you don't need the money as bad as they do. And sometimes that's what we need to deal with. I'm just concerned that I've seen a lot of the employees here, and it really bothers me just to know what conditions you're faced with. In 2021, when we were discussing this about the prison, I was actually looking forward to seeing half, if not at least a third of DOC change, construction going on, fence being moved. Where at least we can, I don't know, is FEMA going to be reimbursing you? Is there any damage up there as a result of the typhoon?
Yes, Senator. We had extensive damage.
Extensive damage. And if any of you were watching, the testimony that FEMA gave was that they're here to help rebuild and harden the facilities. So it's almost like this is your opportunity. You have the ability to get the AG and the Public Works to speed up the process to build a new prison, and maybe convince FEMA that if they can contribute, you can harden what was damaged, and it can be better. And then maybe certain parts you don't have to reconstruct. But I know that your footprint up there can be reduced. I know it can work. With $5 million obligated, up to $70 million available, that's one hell of a start. Versus for many, many years, DOC had nothing. And I want to make sure you guys get something like soon. With about not another 3 years from now. Because then that money will just look smaller and smaller. Every year that 5 actually starts to look smaller than it initially was, because of the interest rates in the States. But with that, I would ask the Oversight Chair if he has any questions. They're all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, thank you guys for coming out. Good afternoon, Viva DOC. But I wanted to start just with the typhoon damage, Mr. Director. Can you maybe just give us a quick report on the extent?
So the director's office itself is non-operational right now. We actually just got internet and services back today, but it's only one side of the building. The one side, pretty much the roof was taken off, was completely destroyed. So only one one side of the director's office is working right now as far as power. They had to disconnect the power to my site, but it's okay because it's just my site. All the workers are still operable. So
have you been working out of Hagåtña?
yes, we moved down temporarily to the parole services office in Agustin.
Is anyone from your department, or is there like a liaison with the governor's office working with FEMA to identify any type of reimbursement or assistance or funding for the prison?
We've submitted all the requests already. That's inclusive of all the damage assessments that we, as far as documentation that's required, all the way from Homeland Security, with the D-Land requests, and them working with FEMA, and the front office also is aware of it, yes.
What's the amount, sir?
Do we have a? It's estimated 2 million.
Where's that going to come from?
I'm sorry, sir.
Is that going to just come from your non-existent budget?
We're going to see first what, like you said, the reimbursements we can get through FEMA, and then work it from there.
How about for the common area and the prison where you house the inmates and detainees? What kind of damage did you guys have
So
there?
we lost up at the main facility, we lost the two COVID isolation tents, the ones that we purchased through the pandemic. That just blew away. The whole 2 tents completely gone. And I think there were other flooding and electrical issues that were sustained up at the main facility, inclusive of Hagåtña detention. But both facilities are still operational.
Okay. Was there any trees down that compromised the perimeter or the border of the facility?
No.
No. And if you could just update us on the status of the aircon repair?
So those are all at GSA procurement right now. It's going through the procurement process. Every single aircon that was, that needed repair or needed replacement was already submitted. So we're, as you guys are aware, the procurement process, takes a while. It's not within our control. We call frequently to get updates, but we can't control how fast they process it.
So when did you guys turn that into GSA?
When was that? When do all of the aircons that we submitted so far? When was the last date that we? May.
And what's if you could just brief us on the extent of the project and which areas of the prison it would address?
The projects?
Yeah.
The ongoing projects?
Yeah.
So what we did was we opened the extra dome, right? That's one of the ways that we're dealing with the overcrowding at Hagåtña detention. So we recently moved about 50 to 60 prisoners from Hagåtña detention facility up to the main facility. That's from opening that additional dome. We're expecting to open up more space as soon as we're expediting the renovation of post 17, which is under renovation right now. So once that's completed, that will free up space because we have those detainees and inmates from post 17, which is being renovated right now. They're in one of the other domes. So that will free up space in one of the other domes once we bring them back to the post 17, which will be completed pretty soon.
So for the aircon repair that you submitted to GSA in May, what's the cost of that project?
What's the average cost? Do we have the numbers for that?
Any estimate?
It'll be through a bid, so
Please-
we weren't.
Please state your name. State your name
Clarice
so we know who
Briggs,
you are.
Administrative Services Officer. It's through a bid, so we don't have the numbers.
Any estimate?
Maybe roughly about 200,000.
And then, Mr. Director, could you give us maybe a more detailed update on the 33? Shit, too many-
Recruitment?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, Senator, they've completed the testing already, and they're working on the eligibility listing. So, unofficially, we were told that there were about 54 out of 77 that passed. It's not a bad rate.
So it almost sounds like improvement.
So they're vetting those right now, and I'm being told that it would probably be at the end of the month that we'll get that eligibility list, because of course they're going to have to allow the appeal process, which is another 10 days to happen before they give us the eligibility list.
I wanted to ask, here in your report, under concerns, it says, due to the shortage of corrections officers to monitor community-based programs such as work release program, education release program, and work credit program, as well as a lack of corrections social workers to conduct criminal risk assessments, evidence-based treatment programs, and community reintegration programs. On more on the shortage of COs to monitor the community-based programs, how quickly do you think we could get to a level where we could see these programs restored?
Again, that's based on the number of personnel that we have available, social workers. And as you can see, we need to hire and even, promote some of the ones that are, right now have been doing all the work. So it's going to be based on how fast we hire those additional social workers.
Right. So for the correctional officers, so you can do the things like, 'cause people always ask, and I brought this up in the last time you were down here, people always ask about having the inmates out here bush cutting, clean up workforce, and then I think what you had said was obviously, right, you got the severe shortage. So what amount of officers would we have to stand up to reach that threshold where you can kind of reestablish some of these programs, not just to make them go out and bush cut, but even, like the education release program?
Yes, correct, Senator. So again, it's going to be based on the manpower that we have available, even to have corrections officers out there to monitor them while they're doing the community service work. That's of course important, and it's needed to be closely monitoring those inmates or prisoners that are out there. So, but I think, Warden, have we had any, I think I did allow some to, right, recently?
Yes, my name is Alan Bohr, the Corrections Facility Superintendent. So we have helped clean along the roadside there in Dairy Road and My Road. Again, this is, the services are cut short because of the manpower. Now we're talking about numbers and effectively running the halfway house, which services education, work release, and projects out in the community. We needed about 12 officers, and the 33 officers that we are expecting would greatly address those needs. As far as programs within the department, we do have treatment programs ongoing as we speak. GIBWIC has Guam Behavior has their drug and alcohol program. We do have our RSAT program ongoing, and Trades Academy as well is going to start next month. So though the storm has set us back a bit, we are again once opening our doors to these programs, to include visitation.
So with the addition of these 33 officers that you anticipate getting on board, you're saying that we could see these programs reinstituted?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And then can we talk about funding the vacancies? Because I know in your meeting there was a lot of discussion about funding vacancies, and I know that our chair here is very concerned about that. But how important is that for the Department of Corrections, given that you're anticipating not just hiring these 33, but then also trying to bring on other personnel that you deem critical to the mission?
Yeah, yes, so we're anticipating 20 more, right, positions for CO1s for FY 2024. And of course, the other civilian positions that we, that's also critical, to supporting the mission, right? So it's not just corrections officers, but also the civilian staff behind, those closed doors that are supporting the mission. So we need computer analysts, we need plumbers, we need maintenance workers, supply clerk, those are, and then of course, the social workers and the parole officers.
Right. So it's very critical.
Very critical, yes.
To fund those vacant positions. Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Just wanted to get that on
Yes,
the
sir.
record. I was just watching the roundtable we conducted a little bit ago, and then is there an update? Because I didn't see anything here about the K-9 unit.
Good afternoon, Deputy Director Andrew Toygan. Yes, Senator, update on that is we did have the quotes come back from GSA, so we're ready to go. Vendor has approved the numbers, everything's good to go, we're ready. We did receive additional funds through ARP for vehicles to sustain these K-9s and to have an additional K-9 and handler. So in total, we're gonna have 2 K-9s, 2 handlers, 2 instructors, 2 vehicles.
How much in ARP did you receive?
Received 40,495, I believe, just for, it's gonna include travel and training,
Yeah.
and then an additional 54,000 for the vehicles.
And do you anticipate that these ARP funds will cover the entirety of the K-9 program?
It will sustain the beginning of the program. Annually, I expect to sustain maintenance for the K-9s, their training, their equipment, approximately about 40 to 50,000 annually. That includes vet care, emergency care for the K-9s, medication. Yeah, about 40 to 50,000 for 2 K-9s.
So I remember in the hearing you had said it was about $15,000 to $20,000 a year, right? Just for the care of the K-9s?
Yeah, that would be just for one. Yeah. Granted, our K-9 that we get, the K-9 that we get is not subjected to any type of physical deformities or anything like that, health problems that may arise when we do get them. So that's, I guess that's Murphy's Law, I don't know. We're just hoping that the K-9s we do receive are healthy throughout their time working, so we're expecting for them to work to at least 10 years, at least.
Right. And you mentioned that the personnel at the prison who would be handling the K-9 unit would be the SORT team members?
Yes, so the reason for the first 2 to be SORT members is because of the operations they're going to be involved in. And these 2 K-9s are specifically trained, well, one of the 4 areas that they're trained in to apprehend subjects or track missing people or a suspect that did flee. So that's part of their tactics that they learn as a SORT officer. Now, later on down the line, when we do purchase other K-9s, I'm looking at getting these K-9s to be either drug detection, solely drug detection, so single purpose, or cell phone, maybe even currency. That doesn't require the officer to have that type of level of training to operate with that kind of K-9.
no pun intended, but this definitely seems like your pet project.
Yes, it's one of the things I believe, or it's a tool. It's a tool that can slow down. I mean, slow it down a lot. You know, the contraband that comes in. We're looking at the narcotic side, also lithium, which are the cell phones or even computers. So we're looking at slowing it down. We can't completely stop it, but we can be there to mitigate the time when we have our canines in operation.
Right. Can you explain just a little bit of the background? So I know usually the canine units, are they funded out of the opioid money? And then how were you able to get just ARP separately and apart from that process?
So the first quotes that I did put out with GSA, those were identified through local funds. The ARP funds, I did request for assistance from front office, and it was identified for the amount that I was originally asking for, so it gave us the opportunity to include one more canine to the program, which is two is better than one, so it came on time. So right now I'm trying to get it where we can get the 2 canine handlers out for training at the same time, then we can have him here, acclimate, train, and then into operations.
Yeah, when I was watching the roundtable, it just kind of caught my interest because you had said that you were talking with the vendor, and I'm assuming this is before anything official had gone out, and that you had been able to get a 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah. So I did speak with all the vendors that we identified as.
So you spoke with all the vendors, not just one. Okay.
Yeah, I had discussions with all of them. I had phone conversations, email. One of them did offer 2 positions as instructor trainers. He has done business with the government of Guam in the past. So he's familiar with our area. He's familiar with our departments. He's really big on the programs here, and he wants us to increase our programs. And this is with Airport is one of the agencies that did go to this school, GPD, and now us. So I did get a deal, steal of a deal, I guess. I don't know. He offered.
Is this when I hear about things like, we don't have enough mattresses, and I brought this up in the last hearing for the inmates and detainees to be sleeping on, and we struggle to pay overtime. I just wonder, as good as this K-9 program sounds, because it sounds like you're trying to do everything with this program, from, contraband detection to searching for missing persons, right? Is it a luxury, given that, we, on the other hand, we can't afford to, treat the inmates and the detainees at a certain kind of like humane level? Or do you think it's a necessity?
The program is it's necessary for the safety of everybody in that prison, including the inmates, civilians, sworn, unsworn, everybody. It's just another way to detect where our officers are finding in there when they do their inspections, right? They're finding it on their own without the help or the K-9 tool. This is going to greatly increase the detection of these contraband that gets past our doors or our gates, and it will slow it down. I can never say it will stop it. We will slow it down, though. Yeah, it is necessary to have it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could defer to my vice chair, is that okay?
Senator Raines.
Sí, just Masi, Mr. Chairman and Chairman. They had a lot of extensive questions, so I'm just going to focus in a little bit. Chief Caballero, thank you for being here. Mr. Toigui and the team, DOC family. So as I look across the issue
what's jumping out to me is the overtime, of course, and I understand the reasoning, so I just want to go through this real quick. I'm looking at the 33 that you're saying it looks pretty promising. 50 plus have cleared, and then that's in motion. I just want to make sure I'm correct here with the ASO. So the additional 20 on top of this 33 are budgeted vacancies?
The 20 is requested for, we're requesting for 2024.
So that's built into your variance? In other words, the
Yes.
variance of your budget request?
Yes.
Okay. So would that be the extent of the budgeted vacancies for correctional officers? Or is there additional positions as well?
At this point, yes, we can't help if some more officers resign or retire, but at this
Sure.
point, that's what we have. That's our
Okay.
count.
Okay, yeah, so because I'm thinking, because what we're looking at here in terms of the request, and I'm running DYA, I understand what this is about, but so your request is 1.12, 600,023 for your overtime, but as you note here, your tracking for this year as of 6/17 is 2.539. You're more than double that, and then your expended in 2022 was 2.8. So I'm thinking and praying in a perfect world we get the 33 on board, and then into next, maybe on the balance of this fiscal year, we'll hopefully pull in the 20 starting out and getting maybe halfway through the next fiscal year. This should calm this down quite a bit, yeah?
Yes, that's the plan, Senator. I'm with you on that one. That's the exact plan that I have.
Yeah, I think that's what will pull this in. And, you know, if you really look at this, this is really accounting basically for about 80% of your variance. And so I'm happy to hear that, you know, we're moving on the recruitment, because that's really going to, you know, free up resources for you to be able to move forward. I don't know who you would address this with, sir, but once again, in a perfect world, say by the end of this fiscal year and then going into next fiscal year, we fill out those recruits. Are you thinking to maintain your 12-hour, or could you shift to maybe settling that down a little bit and adjust the shifts?
We're looking at changing it up. As soon as we get those recruits on board, then the shifts will change.
I see a few smiles. I think the men and women really, I mean, like I said, I know where this is, and that's why I'm just praying for your success. And I think this is a very reasonable request, considering everything that you guys got to do. But I really pray that we get through this year and get these new recruits on board. How about your promotions? Are you up to date on promotions, so you have that mobility too within your staffing pattern?
Promotions for COs, I think we're pretty much done, but we still want to recruit and promote with social workers and parole officers.
Okay. That makes sense in terms of managing your population and hopefully better success with regard to recidivism and those kind of things. As our chairman was saying, it also looks like if you're able to fill out this staffing pattern, your programs will
And
come
then
back online.
Yeah, and then it depends too, right? Because, you know, you have people that are ready to retire, you know, pretty soon with, you know, high ranking, so that would free up again. What I do, or at least from my standpoint, every time there, you know, that happens, if there's a retirement, I fill it right away with promotion. I don't wait.
Yeah, that's good, because then that sets you up at your lower level too, and don't let them take your GG1s.
Right.
Keep that position as a warm body filled. So, but yeah, most of the questions were asked by you know, our chairman. I just wanted to zero in on that. I think if we go full speed ahead on really getting the officers on board, you know, a lot of the other things that you have going will fall into place. I don't want to belabor, but I think that with that and with your variance basically equivocating to your overtime needs, as well as other things that you've put in here, you know, it looks like a balanced approach. And I think the chairman has actually met your request in terms of maybe with a little bit of addition in terms of the legislature's request. So I think we're kind of in harmony here. So we'll see how the progress goes. But like I said, I pray for you guys every day, and keep up the work that you're doing, considering the very difficult decisions, and keep us abreast on how things are going with regard to the recovery efforts. I think we're going to, as you know, we've given the governor considerable latitude to use any resources up to 50 million coming in. So I think you got to knock on that door, Joe, that, if your projects are coming up, particularly when they can really have a quick turnaround for the reimbursement. If you're following that along and knowing that those projects got a good probability and they're looking good in terms of FEMA's assessment, that's a good investment for the government. Get that thing done, and then we get our money back from FEMA. So that would be my only, my work with us, please, too, on keeping us abreast, because whatever we need to do, that's what we want to do to make sure that right now it's all hands on deck with regard to making sure these projects get approved. Let's take advantage of this opportunity, right, with these federal funds to get those repairs done and then regenerate that revenue back to the government. But aside from that, Chief, thank you, and team, thank you for your presentation. That's all the questions I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Reyes. Speaker? Senator Brown, do you have any questions for the panel or comments?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Certainly good afternoon to you, Acting Director. Have you been nominated yet formally for the position? Or, I'm sure we would like to see some stability in the leadership at Department of Corrections. Has that happened yet? Or?
No, not yet, Senator.
Do you anticipate you will be nominated so we know? Because I'm sure our committee, though, will act.
So my assignment right now is, my current assignment is detail.
Okay. So you don't know at this point?
I don't know yet.
Do you desire to be appointed?
That's still under discussions.
Well, understandably, I'm sure it's not one of the more glamorous positions and a very tough position, but we certainly look forward to having the administration come forth, because we've not had actually a permanent director of DOC for quite some time. Even Mr. Camacho, while he was appointed, had not been confirmed by the legislature last year. So I'm sure we would like to address that position expeditiously. I wanted to ask of your ongoing programs with the Guam Memorial Hospital. Are you current with regards, because I know in the past that was always an issue with regards to compensation with GMH in that arrangement, and then providing medical services for the inmates that you have at the prison. So are you current with that in terms of payment in your relationship, and are you consistently getting the services that you need, or where are we with regards to that?
We recently just got a 1.2 million funding to pay some of the bills that we owe GMH. So that was just recently, currently actually, and but we still owe vendors, and including GMH. So
how much behind are you? I think it would be good to know. We're doing the budget, but I know it's been an ongoing issue, but obviously if your vendors are not properly paid in a timely fashion, they might be more reluctant to provide whatever goods or services they're providing. So how far are you behind in those payments?
For current year, for fiscal year 23, we're current with payments. We do have a prior year with GMH for about $700,000.
Okay, and the most recent funding you received, how much would that offset that? Is that just for current fiscal year 23, or will that pay your previous debt owed from last year?
I'm going to have to look into that, because we just got that like a couple of days ago. So I need to look into that further.
And you said you got.
But if it's possible to pay, I will pay.
And you said you received how much? 1 point what?
1.2.
1.2 million that was released. And you owe how much for this year?
This year we're current.
Okay.
But we are projecting a shortfall.
What is the annual cost on average that you pay to GMH annually?
Well, we have an agreement with them which is 2.4. We also pay medical bills. It's really hard to, because it's based on the services that they go in. So
just
it's hard to estimate it.
I don't expect you to give a figure to us to the penny, but just a general idea.
God, I don't have that number offhand. I can get that. Oh,
Is there any other outstanding debts you have from last fiscal year besides what you owe to GMH, which is close to $1 million?
we do have prior year total of 1.6 to other vendors.
Such as?
One
Who
of
are-
them is for one of our dialysis patients. That's about 800,000.
This is for one dialysis patient?
That's one.
And this is the annual cost?
We paid a couple months. We weren't able to pay towards the end of the fiscal year. So the 800,000 is actually the last part of the fiscal year 22.
And who provides that service for you, a private vendor or GMH?
A private vendor.
Okay, any other outstanding debts that are owed?
Just medical to private vendors.
How about your food vendors? Are you current with that?
We're current.
Your food vendors? I see you had a vacancy. Is that still the case with your staff psychologist? Do you have a staff psychologist on board?
No, we don't.
How long has that been vacant?
That goes back to my first term when she retired, Dr. Timinglo. We haven't hired, but that's because we have the MOU now with GIBWIC, the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness.
Okay, so do you have someone coming over on a regular basis to provide your services at DOC, or?
That's correct.
Okay, and you have an arrangement with them to
Yes, that's
you
all in the
compensate
MOU.
for the time and services?
That's-
Okay.
yes.
Are you aspiring to have your own staff psychologist, or?
As of right now, no, because those services, like I said, I mean, I know they don't provide for employees, but that's what you're referring to, for employees. No. We can't even get an attorney right now. Yeah, that's another issue that we're facing with because of the AG's office pulling back, the attorney that's assigned to the different agencies.
Did you have an attorney assigned to you don't currently have an attorney assigned to DOC, or are they just not housed at your facility?
I did. I had an attorney assigned to DOC from the AG's office. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
But they recently pulled that attorney back.
Do they still provide an assistant attorney general services to you for anything you need for your legal issues that you may have, or questions, or processing of your procurement, or whatever the case may be? I mean, in most cases, you do need a legal counsel to review that, if it's
To my
over a certain
understanding,
amount.
it's as needed, and we request for it as needed.
Do you have someone designated to you? Do you know who that individual is?
It's not a designated, it just goes to civil litigation, and they
Okay.
assign somebody.
Okay, so you don't have anyone you can consistently pick up the phone and call even? If you have a question for the Attorney General's office, how do you get that question facilitated? You put it in writing? Can you pick up the phone and call someone? Do you know who to call, or?
Put it in writing and request through writing with a memo, and then they'll respond. They're pretty good at
Pretty
responding.
good about
Yes.
responding? Okay, but you don't have a specific Attorney General assistant assigned to you?
No, Senator.
Well, maybe that's something we'll ask CAG, because I think as issues come up, and you certainly will have them, it'd be good to know who you can call. Sometimes it might
Absolutely.
just be a question, doesn't,
Absolutely.
Okay. And I see you also have on board, you have your own social workers that are staffed at DOC.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, Senator.
and that's assisting you without a regular psychologist?
Yes.
And
yes.
what exactly do they assist with? Is it with the inmates? Primarily, they work with your inmates?
They do risk assessments. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Mark, you want to elaborate?
I know
have
that-
one of them here.
I know that your rehabilitation programs have been impacted because of your staffing capability, but is there anything at all happening on that horizon with regards to, for those inmates that you anticipate that will be released into the community? Do you have any other, we've known over the years, we have the educational programs, the training programs.
We do, Senator. I'll have my
It would
supervisor
be
for
good to-
social work.
Yes, let us know where we are with that.
Mark Perez, Correction Social Worker Supervisor. For those getting ready to be released, we're currently offering the Guam Trace Core Curriculum Program. And we currently have about 13 that are going to continue the class come July. And then for others, we're looking at working more with parole on the reintegration process.
And what type of training are they getting? What are they learning, and what
They're
skill set
learning
is it? Something
safety.
do they get to choose and say this is the area of interest that I
No,
have, or
no.
what exactly?
It is the prerequisite course for the Guam trades. So they learn about hand tools, power tools, construction math, employability skills, safety, and so forth.
Okay. And so do they have an opportunity after to continue with that, or would, if I was an inmate and I went through that, would I be ready to be employed? Would I have enough skill set to be employed, or is that just
Yes.
an initial? I could go out and apply for something in those trades positions if that was my
Yes.
interest.
And they can also branch out to the Department of Labor to work with Guam trades for advanced courses.
Okay. And do you do that do you do on a schedule those that you're anticipating that are going to be released? How do you get selected to be a part of that program to go
We
through this
put out
type
a
of training?
sign-up sheet, and when there's like 30, then we select those who are going to be soon to be released.
What's the time frame for that?
Time frame is about 2 months.
So within 2 months of me being released, I can sign up for the program,
They
and I would be...
they can sign up. There are several that are about to be released that have already completed the program.
Okay, and what if I choose not to because I just have no interest in carpentry or
Then that's
masonry
fine.
or whatever? I'm still okay to get
Right.
released. Okay, it's optional then.
It's optional. Yes.
Okay. I wanted to ask Mr. Director, is your drug testing program, I see you put aside $10,000 for testing for this year, and obviously for us and the public, DOC has had a continued history, unfortunately, and I don't know why, but not that other agencies don't, but you know, we would hope that your officers are above board and that they are not contributing to the issues of drug use and illegal drug abuse in our community. But it's like we wait. When's the next news story going to come out, and when's the next officer going to be identified, you know, that's bringing contraband into DOC? And that's been a perennial, continuous problem. How often do you do your drug testing, and when's the most recent drug testing that has occurred for DOC? Since I assume all your uniformed officers are in designated positions.
So the last one was during my first time around. It was July 2021. We did an overall drug test for all department agencies.
Okay, and we haven't had one since then?
We've
or?
already put in a request for another one that's coming up.
I know there's an existing executive order, and I don't know if we need to make it in statute. I guess that's something we need to deliberate on, whether or not we should mandate, because we're finding out, I mean, Department of the Guam Police, I mean, you know, recently did it, but they hadn't done it for years. And we have a major drug problem on Guam, which I'm sure you're aware of. I mean, I'm sure you have a number of inmates that are in there because of drug-related issues. And I think we want to ensure that our public officials that are serving in these capacities are setting the best example. So I think you need to do it. There's an existing executive order during a previous administration actually mandated annual drug tests for designated positions for the safety of those employees and others as well. I think you probably need to step that up.
It's already been requested for current. I can't speak for last year, but I can speak for the year that I was there, and then I can speak for...
Well, and I think we need, unfortunately, to do it more than once. And, you know, it's got to be something that's random and something that's not announced, because...
I agree.
We have enough employees in very
Annually,
creative ways when they know it's happening, and that, you know, information travels instantaneously, and if there's a way out, somebody's going to find it. So I just think a little more effort because of the history. Unfortunately, it's not, you know, you got a lot of good people, but
I totally agree, Senator.
you just have a
It should
few
be
that,
annual.
you know, just don't walk a straight line, and they make it difficult for the reputation of everyone else. So I certainly look forward to hearing, because, you know, I'll ask that question if you're here. And if you're nominated for confirmation, I think that's something we're going to want to see a little more initiative on the part of the leadership to set that example. With that, Mr. Chair, I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Madam Speaker, do you have any questions or comments for the panel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all of you for being here today and for the work that you are doing and have done over the past year. Thanks especially for the preparation of the budget and the presentation today. Director, can I just ask how long you have been acting in this?
I believe March.
They're saying detailed. Are you still detailed, or are you
I'm
acting?
still detailed. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, so the budget that you presented to us is the same as the governor's request, right? You're requesting the same amount that the governor requested for DOC.
Yes, Senator.
Okay. And this, is, when you say variance on your last slide, you said budget variance of 3.6. What you mean is a variance from FY23 to 24?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So the amount that you're requesting, and the governor requested for FY24 is enough for you to take care of the 22% pay plan, the overtime, and the amount of $925,000, which is less than what you're getting this year. It's enough to take care of an additional 20 positions in FY24 plus the 33 that you're bringing in already, hopefully before the end of this fiscal year?
Yes, Senator, I've been in discussions with the front office about that, and they're in the same page as me.
They're what?
They're on the same page as
Okay.
far as.
And it's enough to cover the other vacancies that you're requesting to be filled, right? Which is a couple in the director's office, 3 in CCSD, and 3 in parole. And then this will be enough to cover your obligations to GMH and your contractual obligations. I know your contractual request went up, right? And you explained why, so that makes sense. Did you have a shortfall, or are you predicting a shortfall in FY23 to cover, for example, overtime? You said you're way above your overtime kind of budget at this point already.
Yes, so based on our tracking, we are predicting a shortfall. So we're going to try and address that again with the front office as far as covering that shortfall.
What's the amount?
What is it? We were tracking at 3. So 700,000. About 700,000, probably.
Okay, about $1 million. That's the one owed to GMH at this point? So overtime's paid, everything?
So most of our shortfall would be addressed through the APR that, the 3.2. Because we have a shortfall of 1.7 in food service, and we're projecting a shortfall for our GMH. Those will be addressed through the 3.2 that was just recently given to us.
3.3 in ARP?
Yes.
Recently given to you? Okay, does that include the money that you're using for canines?
Yeah.
The 3.3?
Yes.
Is it going to be used for overtime as well?
Overtime will be paid through our funds, general
Okay.
funds.
And you're up to date with the overtime?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the Opioid Advisory Commission had also allocated that they were going to procure canines for the police department, DOC, and Customs, and they were going to allocate, I think, 1 at least to DOC. Is that correct? So you're proposing to use ARP funds to get 2 more canines and to pay for 2 handlers for 1 year?
The money that we recently recently landed to us is to fund an additional canine, additional handler certification. and then travel costs.
What do you mean by additional? Additional from what?
So the first proposal that we put out there was only for one canine?
To be paid out of ARP?
No, local.
Okay, please explain. What do you mean?
So we put
Out of your budget? Are you paying
Yes.
for canines?
Yes,
One.
one canine.
That's set already.
Yes,
That's in addition to what the opioid commission was going to allocate to DOC.
yes.
Okay. And I know that the one that the opioid commission is supposed to be doing is supposed to be a drug detector, right? So you're saying, and you also already procured one?
Yes, one, right now we have one canine, which is
Drug detection?
drug, cell phone, tracking, and apprehension.
Oh, all of those?
So it has four skill levels.
Okay. And the handler, if you're using ARP funds, what does that mean? You're going to pay for that for 1 year? You're going to allocate the ARP over the next year to pay for that?
Well, I came up with the cost for each canine for the care of the canine and maintenance to be roughly about $20,000, $15,000 to $20,000 for one canine. So we're looking at possibly $40,000 annually just for maintenance costs. That doesn't include, so the handler's going to be paid through, of course, his regular salary and stuff like that, but there is additional cost for home care when he does have the canine with him. It's like 30 minutes a day, per day.
Okay, so that's like a cost versus a salary. It doesn't get included in salary. It's separate cost expense.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the instructors, are you saying you're paying to bring them on board, or you're
No,
just paying the instructors for the training? A contractor?
No, the instructors are going to come out of the officers in DOC. They're going to be certified as the trainer slash.
So you're paying for their training to become instructors?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Out of the ARP funds?
It's coming out of the local funds that we have. The first quotes that we did put out, that $24,000 is inclusive of the canine certification handler, and the 2 instructors. That's been approved already.
So what are the ARP funds for canines? Is it just for the one canine?
So what we're using that one for is to add an additional canine and a handler, and to pay for their travel to get out there to train.
Of 2 people?
4.
4 people?
Yes.
For the 4 dogs?
For the 2 canines, 2 handlers, and 2 instructors. So the travel, it's
The instructors will not be handling canines?
No, they're just going to be maintaining their certification throughout the year. And what it is the program calls for them to train them throughout the year and the canine. And they report all of this through logging. It's reported back to the school. The school does go over the tests, goes over video recordings of the training and what training aids are being used, and so forth. And the master instructor makes the determination whether or not the canine either needs additional training or the handler needs additional training and guidance.
Director, are these positions as handlers or instructors already in your staffing pattern?
Yes, they are, Senator.
So are those different than the officers, the
No,
corrections officers?
it's just the officers.
Okay. So it's
They're
like an
just-
additional duty that they take on voluntarily?
That's correct.
All right. For the patients who you are paying for medical, are they ineligible for Medicaid? Has that been a finding, or?
I'm not sure of the public health how they do the qualifications, but I believe that once they are incarcerated, they are not eligible for federal assistance.
I know that's the case for food stamps, yeah. I wasn't sure about Medicaid.
I'm not sure
Might
about
be.
Medicaid. I have, I reached out to public health at one point. I would follow up with that just to help with our medical bills.
Okay. And Director, can I just get back to your building? I heard what you said to the chairperson about the building, that there was an RFP and it's at the AG's office for review before it gets issued?
Are you referring to the new prison?
Yes.
Master plan? Yes, that's correct. It's
So
currently at the AG's office.
And when you say master plan, are you doing an RFP to do the master plan, or are you doing an RFP to construct the prison? Because you already showed us
For
drawings
the
and
architect.
everything.
That's for the architectural and engineering.
That's for the A&E
design.
only?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes. So we're past, the master plan is already done.
that's what I thought.
That's
You
right.
showed it, or I think
Yeah.
you showed it to us, yeah. Okay, so you're gonna go out for the A&E. All right, and DPW is handling that, you're saying? Okay, so what is the timeline looking like?
We're at the mercy of the AG's office, you know, how long they take to review it, and then we're at the mercy again of, you know, DPW, you know, coming back and giving us the, you know.
Well, they have an RFP, you said, right, that they're reviewing, so what kind of time does the RFP give the vendor to respond?
Let me,
And then to complete the project?
Major Hagan, can you go ahead and elaborate on that?
Senator, I'm not sure about so the we took our master plan and all the technical specifications, right? And then the governor's office provided some initial seed money to do an architectural services, because, you know, we needed to know what the true cost would be. Because in our master plan, we have a lot of estimates, phase 1 through 4 estimates, but we needed to narrow that down to a direct cost. So the best way to do that is to get architectural in there. And so the governor's office provided funding to DPW. They took our master plan technical specs and they put it together in an RFP. And that RFP is now with the AGs for approval. I don't know the specifics, if it's like 3 or 4 months to deliver a work, but once the AG approves it, DPW will get it and then they will put it out for bid. You know, allow the vendors to get it and submit their proposal, whatever timeline is required in that. I can't recall offhand what the required timeline for the vendors to respond. But right now, like the director said, it's all with DPW and the AG's office.
Okay, so we'll ask DPW when they come in here, and the AG. I was curious because you said that the governor gave you seed money to determine the cost, the true cost. So do you have an estimate on that?
The cost that went, the money that went to DPW was $800,000.
I mean, the cost of what we're going to construct.
No, that's why we're waiting for the RFP for the architect. Once the architects get it, they'll look at the whole plan and then ideally come up with the cost breakdown of what each phase would cost. And then we will have true numbers of, you know, what phase 1 through 4 or 5, and then we can determine, like Senator Sinaga said, what phases we're going to do based on what we can afford at the time. But we need the architect first to come in and, you know, go through those numbers and make sure we have a good idea of what we're looking at.
All right, thank you. There was a past article talking about treatment, or, you know, overcrowding at the prison. Some people have said don't put drug offenders in because it's crowded. AG said he thinks they should be put in long enough to receive treatment, and that then there was a discussion about the RSAT treatment, and of course behavioral health has, you said, drug and alcohol treatment. So the RSAT seemed to have a requirement that they would only treat when within 6 to 12 months of release, so not immediately, only close to release. And what about behavioral health? So would you say now that all of those who require treatment are getting treatment for drug addiction, or they're not? Because at the time, they were not.
So all detainees that, or arrestees and then become a detainee, right? When they come into the prison, they all go through a risk assessment, right? And they get profiled by casework. So once they're assessed, then they're going to be placed, and whatever the needs are, if they need treatment for alcohol abuse or drug abuse, then of course we'll refer them to Guam Behavioral, which is part of our MOU, and those services are available now at the Adult Corrections Facility in Manila because they're embedded into our facility. They're part of our team now.
Okay. All right, so there's no issue of a shortage of treatment.
No, everyone gets treatment that's needed once
Okay.
they're in our facility.
Okay, great. And just one more question. So there was discussion about, you talked about the extensive damage that the facilities faced after the typhoon. And then I think there was an article where you also discussed radio communications were down for a while. Could you just explain that again? Or maybe better, just tell us, are we able to prevent that in the future? Has that been fixed?
Those are all part of our hot wash that we're going through right now. I wasn't really given any details as far as the actual communications breakdown on it, but that's ongoing discussions right now, and we're scheduled to have a hot wash to iron out all those deficiencies.
When is that going to happen, and who's doing it?
The hot wash, we're doing ours internally, and then we're also going to meet, externally with the other agencies.
Okay, but your radio communications are all internal, right?
Internal, right.
Okay, then you have no findings yet?
Well, no. Major Ogan, do you have
So, Senator, our radio system, it's internal. We use a push-to-talk system, so we rely on the outside vendors for their system. So during the storm, some of the, I think it was IT&E that runs the push-to-talk, used to be iConnect, and it's IT&E now. So they experienced some issues with their cell phone and their towers, so that in turn affected our push-to-talk. So we had sporadic services. It would work, and then it'll go off for a few hours, then it'll come back on. So, but as of now, our radios are back up and running. And again, that's something we discuss later with when we do our after-action review of some of the good and bad stuff that affected us during that storm, as the director pointed out. So, but as of now, all our radios are up and running now. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I hope there's a backup rate system that can be put in place for whatever the problem was at the vendor. So right before the storm, you had reported that the renovation to post 18 was near completion. You were transferring inmates from the dome structures there. Did that get affected by the typhoon, or is that completed and done?
Of course, it's delayed, right, because of the typhoon, but it's still being worked on, and it's near completion. Warden, you want to give an update on that?
Yes, it's an ongoing project, the post-18 renovation. Again, there was a delay because of the super typhoon, but it's work in progress. Once that is completed, we're going to relocate those prisoners that we displaced over to the dome back to that post-18. And that would also free us with another space to accommodate the overflow down in the Guardians. The overpopulation.
That would be the dome again?
Yes, the dome.
Okay. All right. So how long do you think before that's done?
I would say maybe a month or so. I can't really give real numbers because, again, we're waiting also for materials on island. Again, that was delayed because of the storm. But it's we're pressing to complete it, ma'am.
All right. Okay, thank you. No more questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Only I'm very concerned about, Joe, is as you get with the AG or DPW and start talking about your plans for the new prison, por favor, if you're reconstructing and fixing buildings, I hope it's not a building that's going to end up getting to be destroyed. Aren't you wasting money on a building that it's part of the phase to go away? If you're going to drop $1 million or $2 million, make it be part of the new prison. Reduce the cost. And hopefully when you work with FEMA and they're going to start replacing your building, you're going to claim it's to fix it, but it's really to replace it. Make it be part of the new prison. That's funding savings. You know where I'm coming from, yes, sir. Director.
Yes, sir.
I know the warden does also. So I just only ask you guys to please be mindful. I just noticed that how much money does the federal government pay you to hold federal prisoners? How much a year? Yeah, so you should know that, right? You're the money lady, so I'm going to look at you more now.
Roughly 118 a day.
A day, $118? No, how many a year? Annually, miss? I don't know how many you got.
That will vary depending on how many are incarcerated.
What's the max?
I don't have that number, Major Agustin.
But what could the number be? In other words, do you have the facilities to house 100 detainees? I mean, it's almost like getting the federal government to commit to that, hey, you own this room, you need to pay us. Fill it or not, you pay it because you're not going to put local detainees in there. If I'm correct, I think you have the facilities is set up for federal, right? And you can't leave it vacant. So maybe, Mr. Major Agustin, you can answer that question.
So, Senator, the federal detention facility, it's called the Federal Detention Facility, the one over here in Agaña,
yeah.
Because it was built by the federals. That population right now, there's about almost 100 in that building.
Okay.
Out of the 100, 27 or around 20, give or take, 20 to 27, the number goes up and down, is federal detainees. About 5 of them are immigration. So that's federal. Those are the ones we do monthly billings for, and the money that we get reimbursed goes into our corrections revolving fund. That's where those payments go to. The rest of the building is being housed by local detainees.
Okay.
Local detainees. So, you know, majority of it, almost 90% of that building is local detainees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to have the oversight give his closing before I officially close. I'm going to be watching out for that as you identify the funding you guys will need. I'm only going to be looking at the 2.7. I use your presentation as my guide, not what everybody's asking for. Bottom line, it says 2.9 is what you really need, because that'll take care of your 20 recruits and everything else. Everything else is, you know, you're going to get a lump sum budget. ASO knows how to wiggle the funds to make sure things work out. And for the Mr. Carballo, that's detailed. You notice he's in a blue suit. That's why he's not wearing green. He's not officially nominated yet. But that's okay. We understand. Senator Barnett, you want to do close before I close it?
Thank you. Do you have a chaplain? Chaplain? You're
Yes,
the
we
chaplain
do.
too?
We do.
Okay.
There are actually two chaplains assigned.
So do you have the services? Worship services? Or are they more for counseling?
We did before the typhoon. And so it's supposed to open up again in the month of July.
Director, could you just, there was a media story about people were held for 8 days at the facility during the passage of Mawar or after. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I'm not aware.
Yeah, I just saw it
There's
in
a
the
story?
paper. Yeah,
I don't.
nothing, no.
No, sir. I'm not aware of any story.
Okay. I think that's, well, I want to thank you guys for coming out, of course, and, you know, I would just implore you to you know, ask the Gov to make your appointment so you can become a more permanent part of the great family we have at the Department of Corrections. I know they want you on board. And yeah, the budget chair has already gave me his commitment that we're going to do our best to give you as much as you can. I hope you're good at wiggling the funds. All right, and thank you again for coming out today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank everyone for attending this hearing and for providing feedback and suggestion. The Department of Corrections budget hearing is now adjourned. It is now 3:31. Please be safe, folks. Take care. Stay out of harm's way, even though you're at the prison. Thank you.